Cheers. Say hi, everybody.
Testing.
Hello, test.
Welcome to the special Christmas edition of Live at the Hive.
As you can see from our respective outfits.
That's right.
Take Christmas seriously here.
Yeah. It pretty much looks like a ghost town out our window right now. I think we might be the only 3 people left in Uptown Waterloo at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. Everyone else is out Christmas shopping and doing last minute things. And
How was your Christmas shopping? Are you good? Are you guys good? Are we set?
Well, Santa's prepped. Santa, had all his gifts months ago, so.
That's good. That's good.
As a man, I'm fairly aimless in general, so I try and do these things very early because I know otherwise they'll go left to the wayside, so all my shopping is done. What about you, Dan?
Very good. It's good. I am done. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to test. Yeah, no, we're good. We're done. Got a stack of stuff in the back right now here. So, but I got my last minute stuff done on Monday night, which was bad enough. So,
Yeah, for those of you doing your shopping this weekend, we're thinking of you.
Good luck.
yeah. Good luck
We'll
to
need
you. Yeah. Well, I get the monitor set up here so I can see if we're all good. Why don't you get started, Courtney, on what's new?
All right. Well, just before we dive into what's new, I just wanted to let everyone know we did kind of tease last week that we would be giving you guys a Christmas gift this week, or a holiday gift, or special end of the year present. But we're just going to be posting it in the comments right now. One of our team members, Megan, is going to post the link to your Christmas gift. No email required, no pound of flesh or anything. It's a total free download.
And no pound of flesh.
So click that link and
I have
download. It's our top tips from the team for 2018. So as the year is ending and you're looking at building your strategy for next year, we asked the team for everyone to give what your number one tactic would be. If it was your company, your business, what would the number one thing be on your hit list for next year to make sure you're including that in your strategy. So if you're looking for ideas and inspiration and tools and tactics to use, that's the gift to look at. So
Very nice. Yeah. And for the first time ever in the history of this live stream, we're actually monitoring. We're monitoring live, and we should be monitoring from the soundboard, but we'll do that next week. I forgot the adapter. Oops.
Nothing gets past us.
Everything gets past us.
Next episode. We will be taking a break next week, and we will be back first week of January. So That's right.
We will. Hopefully lots of good things happen. So let's kick right into what's new this week in the world of digital marketing. This one is actually one of my favorites, the first one, right off the top.
The engagement bait?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one thing that, as a copywriter, a lot of people have been kind of struggling to look for ways to start a conversation when you have social media posts. But unfortunately, there's genuine ways to do that, but there's also very clickbaity ways, or engagement bait, as Facebook is calling it. So there's different types of engagement bait. There's tagging bait, there's comment bait. But for example, if you see a post on Facebook that's like, tag your friend who needs this Christmas gift. Facebook is actually going to start de-ranking posts like that in its algorithm and limiting reach on posts like that. People who they described it as begging for engagement. So not when you're genuinely asking a question to people, more so like we said, you are asking, you're begging people to leave a comment, you're begging people to react to the post, that kind of a thing. And since Facebook, is also Instagram, we can kind of expect that will kind of be rolled out into Instagram as well during 2018. So just keep that in mind when you're writing your social media content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things. Sorry, I gotta take this out. It sounds good. It's hard to talk and monitor at the same time. One of the things that we've seen over the past, especially, actually, you know what? We should stop for a second. We have to introduce Ryan. This is Ryan's. That was actually mentally the thing that was going to happen. It didn't happen. But Ryan, actually, how long have you been with us for now? 2 weeks.
I don't even work here. I just showed up.
He just showed up.
No, it's been
trying to get
rid
rid of him for a week.
I know. It's been about 2 weeks of working here. I'm incredibly happy to be here and working with Dan and Courtney and the rest of the team as a digital marketing specialist. So, yeah.
Yeah, so lots of stuff getting thrown at you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nothing I can't handle with a great team around, but it's been busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, very cool. Well, welcome, Ryan. And you guys will be seeing Ryan, I think, fairly frequently. Ryan, we can also plug you have a podcast.
Sure, I have a podcast. It's called NDO, which stands for No Days Off, and it basically interviews creative entrepreneurs who work in the Waterloo, Kitchener, Guelph area, why they do what they do, how they do what they do, the importance of onesies. As you can see.
Clearly.
In the workplace, yes.
Yes, very important for Christmas.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Maybe we can toss a link out there for people if they're curious.
if you're curious over the holidays.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get someone to drop it in the comments for sure. Well, it's good to have you aboard, Ryan, and
Good to be here.
yeah, and we're looking forward to it. Okay, so one of the things that we know is just to get back on the topic of clickbait and link bait. This always happens with Facebook over a period of time. You would have seen it most famously, I think, with the Viral Nova, and I think Upworthy was doing it quite a bit, was with the complete link bait, clickbait headline.
Curiosity gap, just five things you'll never believe about so and so.
Right, and watch this video, you won't believe what happens at 1:45, it'll blow your mind.
Right.
That entire style was flagged and identified by Facebook, and now currently Facebook has a much stronger artificial intelligence algorithm, which is probably a totally different topic of conversation, because that's terrifying a little bit. But one of the things is you'll see very high profile media pages. I won't name them, but you've probably seen them. And actually what they're doing is they're creating these social viral videos around a product with an Amazon affiliate link to purchase, and they'll get 100,000 shares and 1 million views.
Right.
And they're really kind of affiliate marketing. And I think that's a really big one of the big drivers of this. But I think it's always been annoying to just see the very basic, tag a friend who would want this, right? So I think it's going to go a long way to improve the quality.
Right. So I guess one of the questions is, how will this, Facebook punishing post begging for engagement, how does that change the narrative from here on? Like, what would people start to do now? Because there's always a thing that people try, right? So I guess what would be the next trend in terms of what happens from here?
I mean, I think what you do is what Courtney pointed to, as well as give it context. I mean, if you're an affiliate marketer doing that style of marketing, you're going to run into some problems regardless.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But not being so blunt, I think, and upfront with tag a friend who needs this. That's not entirely creative.
And like we said, it's like people are going to push the boundaries, see what works, you know what I mean, if you can do it and you can get away with it. But like we said, the platforms do catch up with you. They are trying to push the highest quality content to the top of your feed as possible, because they're trying to protect the user experience, right? So if you're trying to game the system, you're really just shooting yourself in the foot. Why not put the high quality content up there that Facebook and your consumers want to see? So to Ryan's point, it's like, instead of, for example, a tactic we use very successfully, instead of begging people to tag, like use the tagging function, design a conversation that is specifically for someone. Are you posting a message towards like a tool that you use? Perhaps you're discussing like a new feature that one of your tools that you use released, and like we would tag them in that post and specifically ask people, hey, has anyone else used this new feature? Like actual feedback, actual genuine questions. I think that people going through your feed, you can tell what's a genuine conversation and what is someone just trying to get engagement. So
yeah, and you can see formulaic activity as well. So my Facebook feed actually this week has been hijacked pretty much exclusively by groups and pages. I've seen probably, for every 10 groups and pages posts, I'm getting one personal individual. And that only just started up. So I've actually been having to suppress it down to try to push the algorithm off my back. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but...
Interesting, because that's odd, because you think there'd be a lot of personal posts because of all the holiday parties and, people getting together and things like that. So, interesting.
Yeah, well, it's also my own activity, which is spurring it because of a lot of pages activity and things like that. So, the one thing I think to keep in mind, and pardon me, and there's been quite a few posts about this, if you follow it, on the Facebook algorithm, and the AI that they're starting to implement on top of the algorithm, which is causing them to... the AI is starting to make certain decisions, and I don't think it's untrue when people at Facebook would say we're not entirely sure what is going into this, which is a danger of AI and neural networks. I can add a couple of links into the comments after the live stream about AI having to be shut off because you can't track the outcome of what neural networks actually do and are. So pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, so stop the post tagging, stop the post begging. I would be careful in the next couple of weeks or few weeks in terms of how you do it, because as you get suppression points applied to a post on your page, that leads to an overall score. So you could actually hurt yourself pretty badly and have to spend some time recovering from that.
Right.
So yeah.
And even from a general standpoint too, I think especially with Gen Z coming out, 13 to 17, and millennials as well, the BS detector is kind of at an all-time high, right? So when it comes to those inauthentic comments and those things that you can definitely mark as clickbait, less and less are they being engaged with because the awareness is a lot more. So to your point, Courtney, I think the authenticity and genuine notions and tags are important. Because the awareness only gets higher and higher as we have conversations like these and as media comes out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if you find that, maybe on Instagram especially, like you've become reliant on getting your engagement from those kinds of posts, kind of try and, pull back on them. But you can also do other things to increase your engagement, like contests. So a contest, whereas a regular social media post, it seems like begging and things like that, but like a contest where the activity of the contest is to tag a friend to enter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the way in which you're using the features and like the way in which it occurs. So there are other strategies for increasing engagement that you can use that Facebook's algorithm totally favors.
Yeah, the simplest one of all, and we've done this many times, is just do the simple thing that most people don't want to do, which is answer and engage with every single comment that comes onto your page. Turn that comment reply into a conversation and get that person to talk back to you. That beyond the share is one of the strongest signals and activators for Facebook to say this is a valid post and people will want to see this in their newsfeed because there's a high level of engagement. The problem is very few people want to do it.
And you know who takes full advantage of that? Gary Vaynerchuk.
He sure does. I knew Ryan was going to get a Gary V name drop in there. We're going to get, one day we'll get Gary V on Skype.
Oh, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
So. I've already got a plan for it, which we'll talk about later.
There you go.
There you go.
I like the hustle.
But I think especially when we see influencers and people, that we obviously know are celebrities and busy and things like that across Instagram do that, it means a lot because it's them and it's genuine. So you appreciate it even more.
Yep, for sure. And it doesn't have to be an elaborate comment.
No.
It can be very, very simple and quick, as you can see from Gary V.
Right.
All right, let's move right along since we're at a healthy guy. I have a 4:30 gymnastics appointment with a 2-year-old daughter of mine, so it should be pretty fun.
It's probably the most adorable thing that's ever been said on this podcast.
That is actually possibly, yeah. Well, that's a good reason to have to go, right?
There you go.
There you go, especially at Christmas.
Family first.
Family first, hashtag. Google Chrome blocking banner ads that don't comply with quality standards. Bam. No more, but I'm going to miss my Punch the Monkey.
Mic drop.
I like Punch the Monkey. This is just Google's constant and ongoing control of the Chrome browser and the experience. So, in some ways, I think Chrome is a great browser. In other ways, I disagree with certain things that it does. But by and large, badly designed banner ads, and specifically, I think Flash, poorly loading ones, large images, things that may have scripts in them, that helps the user experience and prevents malware and just a crappy user experience, right? Like if I'm on an AdSense publisher, right, which there are millions and millions of AdSense publishers, your terrible banner will start affecting the load times of my site quite possibly.
Definitely.
Right?
And you hit the nail on the head too when it comes down to intruding user experience and actually providing things that don't benefit their pathway, right?
For sure. And one thing that got really popular in 2017 and then died really quickly, thankfully, was the whole music behind banner ads. Like when you would go to a site and all of a sudden you're trying to read something, or maybe you're trying to watch a tutorial video and there's this annoying music and you're trying to locate the ad to mute it. It's like, just don't.
Yeah. And Rick Sousa just joined. Hey, Rick. Long time no talk. One of the things I think that we've seen with display ads is they can be effective, and the simplest, most effective ones. First of all, there's a couple of tools. Google and Adobe both have. I know the Google tool is absolutely famous. Google Designer, for designers to be able to create mobile-first friendly banner ads that aren't intrusive, that follow the rules of the modern web. But overall, in terms of AdWords campaigns, are the Google text display ad format, if you've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah. They're ugly, but they're optimized and they convert really, really well. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt. Right. But there are ways to get good display ads out there without having a full-time designer on your staff. They've got a studio. Last I checked, they had about a dozen different templates you could use.
For sure. And even if you're not using Adobe, a lot of tools like Canva A lot of our staff who aren't necessarily Adobe or graphic design trained but are creating content, Canva is an awesome tool. They just introduced an animation element as well, because obviously GIFs and having more motion in your banners and ads is very popular this year. Kind of on top of cinemagraphs and everything, there's also just having that kind of movement, whether it's a full out kind of video clip or whether it's just like a little bit of eye-catching motion. You can actually animate directly in Canva now, so it's not as intricate as like Photoshop timeline, but it's still for basic things. It's great.
Yeah, and I kind of see a future of Chrome fighting the nonstop fight against certain types of basically selective ad blocking happening within the Chrome browser itself, which has a certain irony to it. Yeah, because they generate revenue from that. So, looking to different types of ad formats, and specifically if you're using animated ads, get on the HTML5 train. Move away the animated GIF. You can certainly still do that. You just have to optimize it for size and speed.
Yes.
Flash, not a chance. You got to move away from that. Flash is dead.
Right, and it doesn't have to be too hard either. I like the fact that Canva's kind of democratized design for everyone, and you can have great banners, great templates, great images that don't necessarily need Photoshop or Illustrator, right? And now animations as well, which is a great point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move right on. Courtney, your Snap.
Yeah, so Snapchat had one of their kind of reveals for the end of year, and that's that they're going to start having sponsored filters moving into 2018. So obviously Snapchat advertising is something that's been whispered about and tested with and things like that, especially for event marketing. We've used it ourselves actually quite successfully for some event marketing in the past. But yeah, they're going to have, as you find, if you could imagine, perhaps if you were in the specific region of a store that had a sponsored filter when you got within a certain distance of the store, the filter would then come up as an option for you. And keep in mind that if you are a brand, I feel like this will be rolled out slowly, probably to like very large brands and then trickle down to the rest of us. But if you are using it, my number one piece of advice with filters is be playful. Look at the filters that exist. If your filter is like your logo or like a vector graphic, the overlay, they're not going to use it. That's not the point. It's very much Instagram stories, that kind of a thing. It's very much behind the scenes, very much be playful with it, be creative, feel free to be a little cheeky too. That's fine.
Right.
So.
And I think one thing that you've both touched on before in previous episodes is obviously adding genuine value to any user experience, especially in real time if you consider the context of Snapchat and Instagram. So I get curious as to how Snapchat and how brands are going to use this to actually offer real value in real time. So if you're walking close to a store or a brand that you're a fan of, if something comes up saying there's a pop-up shop or that there's some call to action to drive directly to the store, it's interesting because you see that in real time.
For sure. I know that one example I've seen, like I mentioned, live events are kind of very much into Snapchat. That's very much kind of where it naturally fits in. But I've seen it used very effectively like for contesting. So for example, if you're at a music festival and you're a vendor there and you want people snapping about you and adding snaps with your filter to their story, you could have a contest being like, use our filter, snap with our product, whatever it is, depending on which vendor you are. And then you're creating UGC that you can take and share on your channel. You're getting exposure from those individual people sharing. And then there's also the contesting surprise and delight element of it, right? People, if you have like an actual fun filter that's fun to use, like depending on the the creative concept of it.
Sure.
Yeah, it could be really great.
Yeah, and Snap's taken a bunch of punches this year from Facebook, and they're down in the trenches. Snap still has a substantially large user base for sure, and I think this also leads to geo-targeted campaigns in real time. So Waze does this when you're driving. As you drive near a Tim Hortons, they'll actually let you know, and they give you the directions to get there, so you can get a discount coupon or whatever they do at car dealerships. I think for retailers, the interesting development coming up in 2018 is one, take advantage of someone's real-time location. Not necessarily to even drive you into the location, but to make them aware and possibly even allow that person to go to your e-commerce store. Because right?
Yeah, to that point, another interesting thing that I actually saw was because the main goal of Snapchat is like you are also snapping out to people as a brand, and if you want to increase your views on those snaps, like what Dan was just saying, to drive kind of that brick and mortar connection, you could have a snap that you send out that's like a promo code, and it's like everyone who replies to this snap, snap us back and we'll give you 10% today.
Yeah.
So it's like it can be used, kind of as a layer on that promotional element as well, not just for brand building.
Right.
But,
and especially in real time with that time sensitive nature of, only within this period of time can you redeem this offer would be really great too. One of the things we spoke about when I first came in here was micro moments. And I think it's really interesting that with a lot of Generation Z and millennials, people make buying decisions across devices. So I wonder if you have one of those moments where you just happen to go over to Snapchat between a buying decision, how that could even influence, that whole process.
Yeah,
for sure. So and what Ryan's referring to there with micro moments are the fact that in a very busy social world where we're inundated and we're quite often mobile, as marketers and as business owners, what we have to do is prepare a strategy that allows our brand and our product to be visible when you have that micro moment. So a good example of a micro moment might be my kids are won the hockey championship, and I'm gonna try to find a place to go get ice cream or cake or something quickly. Or my water heater died. I need to get someone to fix my water heater.
Or,
Whichever one. Those micro moments come and go very rapidly these days. And so positioning your brand and with your digital marketing mix to be always on and always available, so that, and that's the whole point of using all the various different social media networks and having campaigns that will deliver in a sniper rather than a machine gun format, so that you can only pay for that visibility when you need it, is actually critically important. So I'm glad you threw that one in there. That was great. Cool.
All right, should we move right along into what's working?
We should. Let's do it.
All right, so obviously, it's end of year. Like we said last week, we've been very much diving into not only what's been working in December, but what's been working overall. Because obviously, for marketing, you have to have a healthy mix of short-term and long-term strategies. So yeah, a few things. We just wanted to, content team and I were talking about giving a shout out to Inch, because they we worked with Interesting Shit, is one of our favorite clients that we worked with this year. We helped them break the 500,000 follower mark on Facebook this year. So that was an awesome achievement. Obviously, very much a group effort. But for any of you, kind of looking at that kind of growth yourself and saying, why not my channels? Basically, the 4 main pillars that helped us reach that are partnerships. So partnering with other channels, creating any sort of sharing partnerships, things like that. Community management. So as Dan referenced earlier, responding to every comment, getting that response time badge on Facebook so that it likes your page and you get all those little signals that the algorithm favors. Also consistent high quality content, so that you are not, you're creating it consistently, but you're seeing what performs and you're pivoting. And then last but not least, there's also our growth hacking and kind of paid strategies that have been sprinkled in throughout the year. So.
Yeah, and I think it's strategically looking at the data, getting information from it, and understanding when we construct virality, because that's really what we're attempting to do. And that's not a nefarious thing. That's just really kind of a distribution strategy, is going back and kind of doing a forensic analysis on how did we get, so when we did worked on 20 Good Things, which has, I can't remember how many now, definitely in the few million for sure, probably more when we aggregate the rest of the partner views on that. We do a forensics on it after the fact and try to pull the pattern of what we did and how that caught on. Like, what was the group that we appealed to? How were we communicating with them? What got that on fire with them? What kind of partners were we using? And that's the kind of forensic go back, understand. And we've been doing this. Actually, this is another thing with what's working as well. We do this also with our paid campaigns on Bing and Google and Facebook, is go back and find your success points and do more of that. And when you're piloting is iterate and keep moving up the food chain, basically. Right. So yeah, it was an exciting year for Inch. It's facebook.com/Inch. It's really, we cover the underknown and the underreported. So it's interesting shit. People like it.
For sure.
Yep.
Geography, history, science, all that.
Yep.
All that fun stuff. So yeah, check it out if you're interested.
And I know it's effective because whenever I work on the account and I actually come across an ad, I'll every now and again look into it and then find myself warped into the article and find, like, how did I get here?
Went down the rabbit hole.
How did I do this? But it works.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So we got a little bit on classic SEO, but that I think I would class that in the get down into the trenches and do work mode of things. A lot of people, I think there's a lot of strategizing. I think our biggest win was one of our sites that we managed. We had a 735% traffic increase. So we went from, I think, hundreds of page views a day to tens of thousands of page views a day.
Yeah, and that was a combination of kind of when we came in, there was some basic content creation going on that was led by kind of assumptions more than keyword strategies. So, from a content marketing perspective, we come in, we kind of bring in the keyword strategy, and then throughout the year, like as content creation, that process gets streamlined and really starts to build traffic. We then layer on other things like directory listings and other type of growth hacks like that. Anchor pages is another very successful content strategy. If you've looked into content marketing at all, you've heard it called an anchor page, cornerstone content. There's very, very many names for it. Basically, if you were to look at the core, subjects of your company or your services, those would be like the 4 pages, or more than that cover those key things that your company speaks about, whether it's a service or perhaps it's, could also be some sort of like a higher level thing as well. But yeah, that should be definitely a part of your strategy. If you are just putting out blog post after blog post and you're not tying those subjects together, really look at doing that and introducing these anchor pages next year, because it increases traffic, it increases your rankings, and it's just great for your site health altogether.
Yeah. The other thing I think that's important, we've had a bunch of discussions on various projects throughout. We had an extensive discussion about this yesterday and the day before, which is identify cornerstone content, make that the core of your content strategy, and build off of that. So if you're struggling, and we hear this quite often, our marketing team is creating a series. We've got 30 blog posts. Okay, great. That's kind of coming at it from a reverse approach, and it becomes very difficult to streamline a complex narrative when you're starting at the top of that content funnel, as opposed to the cornerstone or core content. So a couple of examples of cornerstone content are webinars, right?
Definitely.
Or podcasts, because they tend to be longer form. And those, what that gives you an ability to do is to get the key stakeholders in your organization around the table. They can't be around the table every day, right? They're too busy. But if you can get a series of 2 or 3 webinars in one quarter, you will have enough content within those 3 40-minute or 30-minute webinars, and you can even just record them. You don't have to go live. They can be on demand. And then from that, you can create sections which are snackable content, video content. From that, you can build blog post summaries and email summaries. From that, you then create your social media calendar, create social snackable content in the 30-second to 1-minute category. And from one activity, you now have potentially hundreds of pieces of content.
Yes, so that's very much like Dan is saying, kind of instead of creating all the snackable bits first, take the time, create that centerpiece of content, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a long form, maybe 2,000 word page. You can imagine, even on the simplest level, you have a 2,000 word page that could be broken out into 3 different blog posts. That could be, how many different social media quotes could be pulled from that. So kind of think about it in that sense, and then linking all of these things together so that there's a relationship as well.
Definitely. And it's really time and efficiency and speed of execution as well. In this fast-paced sort of content-driven digital age, having a piece of content that you can repurpose multiple things with is so important. Driving it across all channels to bring traffic back to your site and services.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the other things that can be done as well, and we've done this before in the past, is you could do a video interview or an audio interview with your CEO, your CMO, whoever the stakeholder is in your company. Just get them to talk, because typically C-levels are very good at speaking very quickly, and that's a good thing. And then what you can do is you can then take that content and then repurpose it down into those pieces that you want, right? You can transcribe, you can refactor, reformat, create lists out of it, and try to get those people in a captive moment when they have that time, and just get the most out of it. The second thing that you can do, especially if you're doing B2B, is email chains. invariably in these email chains and threads, obviously you're going to have to filter out. There are presentations, there are strategies, there are ways of approaching customers and projects. Get those, repurpose those. Content is created every day in every company to these amazing, incredible levels. And almost every time we go, especially in the B2B space, every time we start, they're like, well, we don't have that much content. It's like, oh, you have content.
Yeah.
You have got tons of content kicking around, and we want to pull that in.
And to Dan's point, that's kind of one of our, as we kind of segue into our roundtable discussion, that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up, is that oftentimes, people come to us and say like, hey, we don't have the wheels to create all this content. We don't have the manpower. But it's like making the most of it first of all. And also like what Dan is saying is that make sure that you're using your content like to the most in every way that you can, and looking at what did you create last year. Just because you created it last year doesn't mean it's gone. We published it once. It breaks my heart when someone's like, I spent 4 hours creating this blog post. I published it once on Twitter.
Yeah.
Done. It's like, no, like that's great. It's still a piece of content. You should still be looking, like right now, look back at your analytics from 2017. What were your top performing blog posts? What were your top performing pages? Even on social media, grab your top performing content from 2017. Start plugging it into your calendars for 2018.
Yep.
Try to think of evergreen content alongside timely content on basically all levels of content creation.
Yep. The other thing that we started doing here with Live at the Hive is create distinct blocks of conversation. So what we're trying to do here, for example, as we move through each particular block, we know that 45 minutes for a live stream might be a bit to digest on a Friday afternoon, and this is directed towards marketers, but business people as well. But we're able to take each bit, create a clip out of that, and then create that clip plus a summary blog post that goes up on the YouTube channel and on Facebook as a static video outside of the live, which then refers back to the live. So out of that whole process, we're thinking content, where can we reuse this so that we're not spinning our own wheels as well. Right?
I guess a general rule of thumb is if you take an hour or two to make a piece of content, how much more are you getting out of that? Could it serve for 5, 6, 7 hours later in different forms? Right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the key to content efficiency, right? And those that do it well see great results from it.
Definitely.
Cool. Just one last thing I think on the what's working now before we get into the roundtable. We did have this discussion yesterday here as well, which is one of my favorites because of e-commerce. This comes up in e-commerce all of the time is when you're selling a product on Amazon or on your own, whether it's Shopify or WooCommerce or Magento or whatever, is particularly small to medium-sized businesses, discounting is not the greatest sales tactic in the world because it's fundamentally a drive to the bottom, right? When you start discounting, the only real thing you can go on is discounting more, right? So we won't get into this. We might have this as another particular live because it's one of my favorite discussions, is perceived and added value and bundling versus price discounting. And that is one of the things that is working now for us, and we always love to see it kind of come together and help. But when people have a perceived value, that is priceless, right?
Absolutely.
If they feel that thing is worth $20, then it's worth $20. Right? And
so the second you decide to, discount that, devalue that gets shattered.
That's right. So in terms of developing a sales relationship, if you've got your e-commerce store, or you're looking to launch one, and you've got a Shopify store, and you're running these campaigns, it gets really easy to get into the free shipping, discount codes, spin the wheel, punch the monkey, do the thing, refer your friend. All of a sudden, you're asking people to do 7 things, a bit much, but you're fundamentally on the discounting side, as opposed to, we are going to give you this free cookbook. If it depends on the product, an ebook, partnerships with people that have these ebooks. There's value inherently in all of those types of relationships. And I like I said, we could talk about this we talked about it for an hour and a half yesterday. So we could talk about it easily for that long. But I think on the e-commerce side of things, show perceived value and bundle and add on and avoid overly discounting. Because unless you're Procter & Gamble, you're not going to win that fight.
Yeah, and I think doing a live specifically dedicated to that and kind of getting into the meat of and some practical examples of what Dan means when he's talking about a value add offer as opposed to a discounted offer. And sometimes, there is a case where there is an expectation from the consumer to get a discount like Black Friday and Cyber Monday, for example. There are certain scenarios where that's kind of the expectation. But like Dan's saying, when you are on Amazon, depending on where you're making that offer, also kind of affects your strategy as well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying don't discount ever, but I can always guarantee you that someone can get a product similar to your product on Alibaba and have it listed on Amazon in about a week. So, you have to watch, you have to be price defensive is all I'm saying, is show value in the discount and show value in the bundles and the offers, but there are different ways to go about it on the e-commerce side of things.
Yes, and especially if you're branded yourself as a premium product as well, right? Consider your brand and the product placement too.
Yeah. And that also leads to developing a real relationship with your customer instead of punching them in the face and trying to get them aggressively to come to your store to get that first purchase. I'll go back to it, I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is that the possibility of someone making a second purchase from a first purchase is like, and my numbers are estimated, but they're ballpark correct, 27%. From second to third purchase is 55 or 56%. From third to fourth purchase is 87%. So you just have to get the first sale, but you have to get the second sale. Right? Once you get the third and the fourth sale, you're in relationship mode, right? So think about that as equally important as generating that new lead in the first sale, because it's really easy to get stuck on that first sale, right?
For sure.
Yeah,
and that's something that comes up often when we look at marketing strategy with people. It's something we've touched on in lives before, and that's very much people are looking at lead generation. And obviously that's not to be overlooked. It's very important, but that's one section of the funnel. Your conversion and activation and your retention is equally important as lead generation.
Have any of you ever been frustrated by seeing all these amazing deals at Rogers and Bell for cell phone packages, and they never offer it to their existing customers? It's only on new activations only.
Yep.
There you go.
It could also be a whole other conversation for maybe an hour or so.
But there you can switch back and forth from Rogers to Bell and make them.
Well, and that's exactly what people do. That's like a buddy of mine, Max, just went to Kudu or whatever.
Oh, Kudo.
Yeah. Same thing. It's like, well, who cares? They're not giving me an offer to retain me, so I'm going to go to someone and to give me something of value, right? So, definitely food for thought, and that all this stuff that's working now. So. We've got a few minutes left for roundtable.
We do.
What do we got? Oh, look at that. Dun, dun. Skynet will activate in 2018. That's not a joke. It's actually scary true.
Oh, actually?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were kidding. Gotta make some calls now.
Yeah. Does anyone have any comments on this, or I can get started on it?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So AI has always been a kind of interest and a passion of mine. And one of the things about the AI that's being implemented now that is quite unique and different than most forms of AI is called, the format of them are neural networks. So these nodes of knowledge are small. They're like the axons in your brain, right? And they weave together a neural net of atomic pieces, smaller pieces of decision making that can work together to create a different decision tree, right? Now, IBM, Google, and Facebook have really been working hard to implement these, but they are implementing them in production without fully understanding the decision-making process of that, what becomes sentient intelligence, right? It's making real decisions about display on Facebook, about how Google will work and deliver you search results, what it knows about you. And the Watson cloud is how companies and brands can access the Watson basically supercomputer, right, of AI and their deep learning methodologies and apply it. So what this does, and this kind of gets a little science fiction-y, but not really. So there's a thing called big data, and what big data is what used to happen when statisticians would attempt predictive analysis. They'd use samples, sample sizes, right? They do it all the time in political polling, right? Plus or minus 3.5%. We actually surveyed 974 people, but we think it will work for the entire population, right? What big data is analyzing the entire real-time database and making that you're not sampling anymore, using all of the data. That in conjunction with artificial intelligence, having that capability where these machine learning agents will make decisions in real time. IBM shut down one of theirs because they could not explain, and there's a couple of articles about this, that they couldn't understand the decisions that the AI was making anymore. Now that's a terrifying, now it's not terrifying in the sense that like Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to zap in time and you know the machines are coming to get us, which would be awesome. Well, maybe not awesome. I don't know if that would be kind of cool.
Awesome.
Got bigger things to deal with nowadays.
But if you have an AI agent that is able to access things like the Internet of Things, so home thermostats and things like that, and make these decisions, but the creators of the software are unable to understand the logic process of this machine learning artificial intelligence, that has a lot of implications for society.
Definitely. And it's such a double-edged sword too, because I think from a consumer standpoint with machine learning, we talk about speed and efficiency and being on the go and having things happen in real time. I think it just makes that much easier. So from a usability standpoint and from a purchasing standpoint, you know, products, brands, that all becomes way easier. But then it's scary from what you just mentioned in terms of not being able to figure out that logic and not understanding, because there's so many implications from a societal standpoint that comes to that.
Andrew for one welcomes our robot overlords, and I was fully expecting Andrew to put in a comment like that.
I just find it ironic that like very much what you're talking about is like people think of Terminator and stuff, and it's like you're already using AI, like you just don't even know it. Yeah, like you're using it. Like you have an iPhone or you have a smartphone, you're using it.
Yeah.
So
one of the things about practical implications of modern AI and machine learning are how products and services are delivered to you based on other activities that you may make. A lot of that is machine learning, and that machine is learning about you with the big data and the deep data that exists from your Google and your Facebook and your cell phone, with Apple's case, activity. What should you see? What products motivate you? Are you political? Are you apolitical? Those are different kinds of things. What should we show you? And a lot of that is the machine learning about you and your habits. And from a marketing perspective, what that allows a marketer to do is actually provide relevancy that's kind of a next level. It's next level as opposed to your browsing habits versus I'm apolitical and I enjoy these types of things, so I'm able to see this product, and that product is well suited for me. Right.
Yeah, so it's moving into the third and fourth layer of our targeting. Like you look at, geographic and demographic are always the go-to basics, but the psychological and the behavioral targeting, that's where digital marketing is taking us. Why do people do what they do? What is their behavior around purchasing, and even in their life as well? Are they active? Are they, that kind of a thing? So
yeah, for sure.
Very much just taking that to another level.
For sure. And that does segue into the next thing, which is the smart assistants, Google Home, Alexa, Amazon. They're going to be fighting for this. I'm personally not quite a fan of the smart assistant on numerous levels.
I heard an Alexa radio ad for the first time the other day and was like, she's here.
Yeah, she's here. They're interesting things, but there's machine learning in that as well. It's also a listening device. It might be crossing lines. It's kind of like having keyless entry IoT for the front door of my home. I don't know that I want that.
Right.
There's definitely a line and a balance. To the point of what's coming up, because we have like a couple of minutes left, this will be bringing marketing will come to the home assistants. There's no doubt about it. Being able to push a message to those home assistants. So I would certainly agree to look out for that. So machine learning and AI and marketing all over the place. Marketing reaching those assistants like Google Home and Amazon Alexa, is they're selling them for $50, and they're selling them at very, very low price points to get them in the hands of as many consumers as possible, to again get more into the connected Internet of Things life. And the last thing, and we don't have much time to really cover it, but we should, because this is definitely going to be one of the biggest things, it is right now, is cryptocurrencies, but more importantly, the blockchain. And then an extension of that is what's called the smart contract, which is Ethereum's take on blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Kind of touched on cryptocurrencies in the past. Maybe we'll save it for another discussion another day. It is kind of it's in-depth topic.
Yeah, you can definitely get deep on the blockchain and smart contracts. But what you will see in 2018 for sure are applications being built on top of cryptocurrency to utilize the blockchain features of it. So Ethereum is a great example of that. Smart contracts are their blockchain, which are able to validate the integrity of those contracts. So in developing countries, and when you're looking at things that could be modified, medical records, health records, that kind of thing, the blockchain and smart contracts are really the future, and we're already seeing entire applications are starting to be built on top of these technologies. So it's fascinating to watch what's going to happen. So,
and I think blockchain, Bitcoin, things like that, for some people they're fairly foreign concepts, but it's like what you mentioned with Alexa and Google Home, like they're here. It's happening, you know. Mm-hmm. So the future's only progressing faster and faster when it comes to these things. So whether it's the applications, or you know, it's here, and it's good to study and obviously delve into as well.
Yeah, and like you said about, you know, everyone wants more convenience, more time saving, and people are kind of barreling in and accepting these things. You know, to Dan's point, they're kind of just like, hey, Alexa, sure, I'm not going to consider, you know, what giving like this remote entity, giving it access to my home and all of the devices in my home entails. I just want it because it's quick and it's easy. Like I have a friend in the States who's like, doesn't even, she's like, you guys don't have Alexa? Like they've just, it's ubiquitous there. Yeah.
Yeah. So be knowledgeable, be smart about what it is that you're doing. I think one of the last things, especially with cryptocurrency, is really take a little bit of time to educate yourself about what each one of these currencies are before jumping in, because there's now a Bitcoin futures market, so it's much more accessible for purchase. I wouldn't say it's a very wise thing to purchase something you have no idea what it is at all. Of course. And where you buy it is always the most important thing too, because a lot of the things that are happening with crypto have less to do with the currency and more to do with the trading desk that you purchase from having vulnerabilities. They're two different things. So the example is PayPal would be a similar type of thing for a coin trading desk as an example, and the Canadian dollar is the currency that sits inside the trading desk, right? So you could go to Coinbase, which is one of the largest. You can buy Ethereum, you can buy Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin, but you have to be smart about where you are trading that from, because if there's a security vulnerability, you will lose your coins potentially. Right? So don't just go out and find the first one that you Google. But we'll leave that for another time. But blockchain is going to also find itself into digital marketing and advertising in a big, big way. One, to combat the worst thing in the world, which is click fraud, which is ubiquitous on every platform, no matter how much they say that it isn't. And we have to be very careful about how that click fraud occurs in terms of digital marketing, advertising spend, and defending it. So really seeing whether using blockchain technology to verify real users versus fake users, to create a transaction when an ad is delivered, and then using a blockchain to verify that is a real individual is incredibly powerful and important for transparency in the industry. So
definitely.
For sure. Right.
So Courtney's going to sing, it's actually going to be a spoken word poem. No, I'm just joking. She's not doing it.
We're not doing
that.
She's not doing it. Courtney, she's going to sing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," but we're not going to do that.
We have our Christmas gift. We have our Christmas gift.
That's
we have our Christmas.
Singing is not a gift for anyone.
And that's all I'm doing.
I'd say it's a gift to humanity.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, look, everybody, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from all of us here at Honeypot Marketing and the Hive.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And we will see you in 2018, fresh and refreshed, because I think we're all a little tired and ready to get home to our friends and family.
We'll see you January 5th.
Boom.